Murder and Memorabilia. Episode 11. The Midnight Candle. The candle had been lighting itself for a week. Not dramatically. There were no sudden flares or mystical appearances of flame. The midnight candle was more subtle than that. Calla would walk into the red shelf room and find it burning quietly, its black wax pooling in perfect circles as if someone had lit it moments before. She'd blow it out, check that all windows and doors were secure, and return an hour later to find it burning again. "This is getting ridiculous," she muttered, reaching for the matches to relight it properly, then stopping. The candle was already lit. Baxter had taken to avoiding the red shelf entirely, which was never a good sign. Smart Dog knew when to stay clear of supernatural complications. The label beneath the candle read in her careful script, "Item. The Midnight Candle. History. Recovered from seance where medium died during ritual. Rumor. Lights itself when someone nearby has murdered before. Status. Active. Self-lighting daily. Multiple triggers. Possible." But today felt different. The candle burned steadier, brighter, as if it had found what it was looking for. The flame didn't flicker in the draft from the heating vent. It stood straight and certain, like a beacon. Calla updated her notes. Week 2. Pattern consistent. Candle lighting correlates with increased foot traffic. Investigate recent visitors for violent criminal history. She'd barely finished writing when the morning's first disruption arrived. The Hartwell family reunion had descended on Summerwind like a plague of well-dressed locusts. After 20 years of scattered lives and careful distances, the death of family patriarch Edmund Hartwell had brought them all back to settle his substantial estate. Rebecca Hartwell Stone arrived first, her rental car's California plates announcing her status as the family's success story. At 52, she was a prominent defense attorney, with a reputation for getting wealthy clients acquitted of violent crimes. Michael Hartwell followed an hour later, his beat-up pickup truck a stark contrast to his sister's luxury sedan. The family's middle child had never left Summerwind, working construction when he could find it, drinking when he couldn't. Dr. Sarah Hartwell Chen was the last to arrive, driving in from the city where she worked as an emergency room physician. Composed, efficient, known for her ability to make life-or-death decisions under pressure. They'd come to clean out their father's house, divide his possessions, and hopefully avoid the kind of family drama that had kept them apart for 2 decades. Calla first encountered them when Rebecca entered her shop shortly after 10 a.m. "I'm looking for someone to appraise some antiques," Rebecca said. "My father recently passed, and we need to determine fair market values for estate division purposes." "I can help with that. What kind of items are we talking about?" Rebecca pulled out her phone and showed Calla a series of photos. Victorian furniture, Asian art, what looked like a substantial collection of rare books and manuscripts. "Most of it's probably worthless," Rebecca said dismissively, "but there might be a few pieces worth salvaging. My father was eccentric in his collecting habits." "I'd be happy to take a look. When would be convenient?" "This afternoon. We're staying at the old Hartwell place on Maple Street while we sort through everything. Fair warning, my siblings and I don't always agree on how to handle family business." After Rebecca left, Calla checked the candle, still burning steadily, but now the flame seemed taller, more intense. The Hartwell house was a testament to 70 years of accumulation without discrimination. Edmund had been a collector. He'd gathered objects not for their beauty or value, but for their stories. Every room was packed with furniture, artwork, books, photographs, and personal items that revealed the intimate details of a long life. Michael met Calla at the front door, beer in hand, despite the early hour. "You're the antique lady," he said. "Rebecca's got big plans for selling everything and splitting the cash. Course, she's got her lawyer brain working overtime, making sure she gets the biggest share. That's between you and your family. I'm just here to provide appraisals." "Right. Well, good luck with that." Michael's smile was bitter. "Half this stuff probably fell off a truck anyway." Dad wasn't always particular about where things came from. Dr. Sarah appeared from the kitchen, medical bag in hand. Sorry, just finished checking on Mrs. Patterson next door. Her blood pressure medication needed adjusting. She extended a hand to Calla. Sarah Chen, you must be Miss Finch. Calla, nice to meet you. Sarah's always playing doctor, Michael said, with an edge to his voice. Can't resist fixing people's problems, whether they want fixing or not. It's called caring about the community, Sarah replied coolly. You might try it sometime. Before the sibling tension could escalate further, Rebecca emerged from what appeared to be a home office, carrying a banker's box full of papers. The three of us need to talk, she announced. I've been going through Dad's records, and there are some discrepancies we need to address before any estate division. What kind of discrepancies? Sarah asked. Rebecca set the box on the dining room table. Missing money, substantial amounts. Dad's bank records show regular withdrawals over the past 5 years. Cash, no explanatory documentation. Nearly $200,000 just gone. Michael went pale. You think someone was stealing from him? I think someone was using his declining mental capacity to gain access to his accounts. Rebecca's lawyer instincts were clearly engaged. The question is, who? The three siblings stared at each other with suspicion. Calla felt like she was witnessing the opening arguments of a case that might end in more than hurt feelings. Perhaps I should come back another time, she suggested. No, Rebecca said firmly. Stay. We might need an independent witness for what we're about to discuss. That's when Calla noticed something odd. Each of the Hartwell siblings was carrying a small, personal item. Rebecca had a silver letter opener. Michael wore his father's old watch, and Sarah kept touching a medical alert bracelet that looked too large for her wrist. All three items seemed to catch the light in unusual ways, and in her mind she could picture the candle in her shop burning brighter. The family conference quickly devolved into accusations and denials. Rebecca laid out the financial evidence. Edmund Hartwell had been systematically drained of his savings over the past 5 years. The withdrawals always occurred on days when one of his children had visited, and they accelerated dramatically after his dementia diagnosis. Someone was taking advantage of a sick old man, Rebecca said, and I intend to find out who. Michael's response was defensive and angry. You think it was me? Because I'm the one who stayed here, looked after him while you two built your fancy careers in the city? You were the one with access, Rebecca pointed out. You had keys, you knew his routines. You were struggling financially. I never stole from Dad. Michael's voice cracked. Yeah, I borrowed money sometimes, but he knew about it. He offered. Sarah had remained quiet during the exchange, but now she spoke up. The withdrawals might not have been theft. Dad could have been paying for medical care that wasn't covered by insurance, experimental treatments, private consultations. I might have facilitated some of those arrangements. What kind of arrangements? Rebecca asked sharply. Medication trials, alternative therapies. Dad was desperate to slow down the dementia, and sometimes desperate people make expensive choices. Illegal choices? Rebecca pressed. Sarah's silence was answer enough. Calla watched the family dynamics with growing unease. 3 siblings, each with access to their father's money, each with potential motives for taking it. But there was something else, something in their body language, their careful word choices, the way they avoided direct eye contact. These were just people arguing about money. These were people with secrets. I should probably get started on the appraisals, Calla said, hoping to diffuse the tension. Actually, Rebecca said, before you do that, I'd like you to look at something specific. She disappeared into the office and returned with a small wooden box. Dad kept this locked in his desk. I found the key after he died, but I'm not sure what to make of the contents. She opened a box to reveal a collection of newspaper clippings, all yellowed with age. Calla scanned the headlines. Local woman dies in car accident. Suspected drunk driver never charged. Family seeks justice in hit-and-run death. The articles all dated back 23 years, and they all concerned the death of Jennifer Morrison. a young mother who'd been killed by a drunk driver on a dark stretch of highway outside Summerwind. The driver had fled the scene and never been identified. "Why would Dad keep clippings about this accident?" Sarah asked. Michael had gone very quiet. His hands shook as he reached for another beer. "Jennifer Morrison," Rebecca said slowly. "That name's familiar. Wasn't she married to that police officer? The one who left town after his wife died?"
"Ray Morrison," Calla said. "He became a detective in the city."
"Right, and he always claimed the investigation was botched, that someone in Summerwind knew who killed his wife but was covering it up." Rebecca studied the clippings more carefully. Dad apparently thought the case was worth remembering.
That's when Calla noticed the dates on the newspaper clippings. Jennifer Morrison had died on October 15th, 23 years ago. The first withdrawal from Edmund Hartwell's account had occurred on October 15th, 5 years ago. Exactly 18 years after Jennifer's death. Someone had been paying for their sins. The question was who?
Calla excused herself to make a phone call, but really she wanted to check on the candle. She drove back to her shop and hurried to the red shelf.
The midnight candle was burning so brightly it cast shadows on the opposite wall.
The flame was twice its normal height, steady and intense.
She pulled out her phone and called Sheriff Ellis. "I need you to run background checks on the Hartwell siblings," she said.
"Rebecca, Michael, and Sarah. Look for any violent incidents, accidents, medical malpractice suits, anything that might constitute a death or serious injury."
"What's this about?"
"Candle's been lighting itself for a week. Today it's burning like a beacon. All 3 Hartwells are in town, and their father kept newspaper clippings about an unsolved hit and run from 23 years ago." Ellis sighed. "You're asking me to investigate people based on the behavior of a supposedly magical candle." "I'm asking you to investigate people who might be connected to a 23-year-old murder. The candle is just confirmation." "Fine. Give me an hour." While she waited, Calla researched Jennifer Morrison's death. The case file painted a picture of a tragedy that had destroyed multiple lives. Jennifer, a 28-year-old mother of 2, had been driving home from her job at the hospital when someone struck her car and fled. She'd died at the scene. Her husband, Ray, then a patrol officer, had become obsessed with finding the killer. But there were details that bothered Calla. Jennifer had been a nurse at Summerwind General Hospital, working the night shift. Her supervisor noted that she'd been upset about something at work, a patient care issue that she'd reported to hospital administration just days before her death. 3 people had been involved in that patient care incident: Dr. Sarah Chen, then Dr. Sarah Hartwell, Rebecca Hartwell, then a first-year law student working part-time at the hospital's legal department, and Michael Hartwell, then a hospital maintenance worker. The Hartwell siblings hadn't just known Jennifer Morrison. They'd been involved in whatever had upset her enough to file a formal complaint. Calla's phone rang. "Sheriff Ellis." "I've got your background checks," Ellis said. "And you're not going to like what I found." Dr. Sarah Hartwell Chin had been involved in 3 medical malpractice lawsuits over the past 15 years. All had been settled out of court, but the pattern was troubling. Elderly patients dying from medication errors, surgical complications that seemed suspiciously convenient for family members dealing with inheritance disputes. Rebecca Hartwell Stone had built her legal career defending clients accused of vehicular homicide, hit-and-run accidents, and other driving-related fatalities. Her win rate was impressive. Her methods, sometimes questionable. Michael Hartwell had 2 DUI convictions, both from over 20 years ago. He'd lost his license for 3 years after the second conviction, and had reportedly struggled with alcoholism ever since. All 3 of them have connections to deaths involving vehicles or medical negligence, Ellis said. But there's something else. I pulled the original Jennifer Morrison case file. There was evidence that never made it to trial. Paint chips from the vehicle that hit her, blood evidence, even a partial license plate number. What happened to it? Filed away and forgotten. The investigating officer noted some irregularities but didn't pursue them. Want to guess who the investigating officer was? Edmund Hartwell. Jennifer Morrison died because someone covered up the evidence. And I think that someone was about to be exposed when Jennifer filed her complaint at the hospital. Calla returned to the Hartwell house to find the siblings in the middle of what could only be described as a three-way standoff. Rebecca stood behind the dining room table. The newspaper clippings spread in front of her like evidence in a trial. Sarah sat in a corner chair, medical bag clutched in her lap, looking pale and shaken. Michael paced near the window, his father's watch catching the late afternoon light with each movement. "We need to talk about Jennifer Morrison," Calla said. The silence that followed was deafening. "I don't know what you think you know," Rebecca said carefully, "but I'd advise you to be very careful about making accusations. I know that Jennifer Morrison filed a complaint at the hospital 3 days before she died, a complaint that involved all three of you. I know that your father was the investigating officer who buried the evidence in her hit-and-run death. And I know that someone's been paying a lot of money to keep that secret buried." Sarah stood up slowly. "Jennifer was going to destroy us, all of us, over something that wasn't even our fault." "What wasn't your fault?" Calla asked. "The patient deaths," Michael said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Dad was taking money from families who wanted their elderly relatives to transition peacefully. Sarah would adjust medications, I'd disable monitoring equipment, Rebecca would handle the legal paperwork to make it look natural. We were helping people," Sarah added defensively, "ending suffering for patients who had no quality of life left. Though fair, our people will, for a fee," Calla said. "We weren't monsters," Rebecca said. "We were providing a service that people desperately needed. But Jennifer Morrison found out and threatened to expose everything." "So you killed her?" "It was an accident," Michael said, tears streaming down his face. "I was supposed to just scare her, make her think twice about filing her report. But I'd been drinking, and it was dark, and when I saw her car, you ran her down and drove away." "Dad helped us cover it up," Sarah said quietly. "Destroyed the evidence, redirected the investigation. But the guilt was eating at him. That's where the money went. He was making anonymous donations to Jennifer's children, trying to make amends." "He had $200,000 in guilt payments," Rebecca added, "and it still wasn't enough." Calla pulled out her phone to call Sheriff Ellis, but Michael moved faster than she'd expected. He grabbed the silver letter opener from the table and held it to Sarah's throat. "I'm not going to prison for this," he said. "Not after 23 years. "Michael, don't," Sarah pleaded. "Rebecca's got her career. You've got yours. I'm the one who stayed here, took care of Dad, lived with what we did every single day. I'm not going down alone." That's when the impossible. The silver letter opener in Michael's hand began to glow. Not with light, but with heat. He dropped it with a cry of pain, and it clattered to the floor. At the same time, Sarah's medical alert bracelet started burning against her wrist, forcing her to tear it off. The watch Michael had been wearing grew so hot, it left a burn mark on his wrist. "What the hell?" Michael started to say. "Objects with violent histories," Calla said quietly. "They respond to guilt, to the presence of murder. Your father collected evidence. The letter opener Rebecca used to threaten the hospital administrator who wanted to investigate further. The watch Michael was wearing when he hit Jennifer. The bracelet Sarah used to identify which patients were targets." The three siblings stared at her in shock. "How could you possibly know that?" Rebecca whispered. "Because I have a candle that lights itself when it's near people who've committed murder. And right now it's probably burning bright enough to be seen from space." Sheriff Ellis chose that moment to arrive, accompanied by backup officers. "Let me guess," she said, surveying the scene. "The antiques told you they were murderers." "Actually," Calla said, "they confessed. I just listened." The arrests were swift. Michael Hartwell was charged with vehicular homicide in Jennifer Morrison's death. Rebecca and Sarah faced charges related to their roles in the assisted suicide scheme and subsequent cover-up. Edmund Hartwell's posthumous involvement
would be documented but not prosecuted. 3 days later, Calla sat in her shop with the midnight candle finally extinguished. She updated its label. Item: the midnight candle. History: recovered from seance where medium died during ritual. Rumor: lights itself when someone nearby has murdered before.
Status: active. Identified 3 murderers in 23-year conspiracy.
Note: some flames burn to expose, not destroy. The candle sat cold and still, but Calla knew it would light again when needed. Outside, summer wind settled into evening quiet, and the red shelf waited for whatever truth would surface next.
Thank you for listening. Please visit me at winvalentine.com to stay up to date. Please subscribe, leave a comment, and review.